Okay, it is Friday. Hopefully you got big plans for this weekend. It's our final show of the week. November 14th is the date. I'm sure you knew that already. As we keep getting closer to the holidays, and we're going to have we know a lot of cool things are going to happen with free agency and hopefully with trades. Make sure on your way in, on your way out, if you're watching this live, to subscribe. Leave your comments that we'll read on Monday. We'll get the comments if you're new. That's the format. 3 topics. Comments are all yours. And then at the end of the month, we will have the sidebar be all of you. You will dictate the show. Friday fans. Get a little fan out. Rocking the Paw Sox hat. I had to. I talked to someone from Rhode Island yesterday, and it just made me think, let's get the Paw Sox hat. Social media is easy, at the Radio Mike. You'll see my personal YouTube page, Mike Antonellis Media. That's me. I think you know by now, but we have new people, new guys and gals, boys and girls. So if you see that comment, it's me. I'll try to get to them throughout the day. Sometimes I don't get to them right away. We try to, but I have other things that I have to do that. You guys are and gals are number one, but full-time job, and I have to do that. So all weekend, though, if you want to comment, because if we have anything, we'll get to it. All right, so we had some MLB awards. MLB.com has a pretty cool layout with all their awards. I like it, the graphics, and I didn't know some of these awards. Trevor Story, by the way, was runner-up for the Comeback Player of the Year. DeGrom won it in the AL. I honestly don't care about this, but I do like to poke fun at Major League Baseball. Ronald Acuna won it, but he played 95 games. So, I don't know. Wouldn't the Comeback Player of the Year, I get it, he overcame injury, but shouldn't they play like at least 120, 130? I mean, how much did he come back? I know he made the All-Star team and all that, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. Chapman, though. This is cool. Chapman and Edwin Diaz were the relievers of the year. I missed this. Milwaukee's executive Matt Arnold got executive of the year. That makes sense. And then the first team All-Stars were represented. The Red Sox had Crochet in there. This is the entire MLB. So the starting pitchers were, you guessed it, Skeen, Skubal, Crochet, Yamamoto, Max Fried. And then Chapman and Duran for the relievers. And the MVPs were no surprise at all. I broke this down. Cal Raleigh had 2 months where he hit about 160. I know that the voters had to see that. You can't. I get the home runs. That's great, but you can't hit 160 over for 51, 52 games. Have that bad of a run and be an MVP just because you hit, set the record for. You got to be pretty good every month, and Judge was, and he deserved it, and so did Ohtani. I know there's fatigue with those guys, but I mean, so what? You can't not give awards to people based on fatigue. It's just not how it is. And at the end of the day, no one's going to care, right? In another month. That first team, though, Raleigh, Guerrero, Ketel Marte, Bobby Witt, Jose Ramirez, Judge, Juan Soto. I'm surprised he was a first team. Julio Rodriguez, too. That shocks me a little bit. First team All-Star? Pretty good year. In Ohtani, but there's some good young players in the game. And some really good All-Stars. So that's that. So every day there seems like there's something going on about this. I told you this is going to be the way it will be with Bregman. It's going to be the good, the bad, the ugly. People are going to not want him. They're going to want him. Chris Cotillo went on a podcast and talked about that teams are probably going to go to places the Red Sox might not go. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. We could. I'd be very disappointed if it didn't happen. You guys know how I feel about this. I just think with the position of priority. I did not agree with Chris Cotillo. He said their left side, even with Bregman, wasn't great defensively. I don't know. I don't really agree with that. When Bregman was out there, he was pretty damn good. It's not putting Meyer there over Bregman is not the solution, and you'll see that if that ends up. And I know he played great there, but you're talking about someone that's been hurt, that's not proven. That's not the option I want for a team that just went to the wild card. But, I see both sides of this. And there's a lot of you that comment on this about you don't want to go too uncomfortable with him. See, I don't really care at this point. It's weird where I get a lot of comments about them not spending, and then we're very particular about who they give out money to. You're going to have to sometimes make uncomfortable moves. So if it's 6 years at 35, I'm all in for that. I really am. I just think it's worth it. I do think one thing we have done, which this didn't take long, during the playoffs, we saw what arms did. Even with the Dodgers still had games where they didn't hit in the playoffs. They had a lot of games, actually. Now, they're the outlier having those 4 great starters, but Toronto had some great pitching performances, and they had some lapses in hitting. Not as much as other teams, but we saw what pitching does. 99% of talk on social media about what the Red Sox do involves position players. It's all Alonso, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but there's still I still would rather go the other way. Say they didn't get Alonso and went more pitching. I'd be okay with that. I think we're still living off what happened at the end of the year, looking at that lineup without Roman Anthony and seeing no power, and just, and Breslow wants something. I get that. I just don't think that, say, if you didn't bring back Bregman and you signed Alonso and didn't get pitching, that's not going to solve issues. Yeah, you'll be offensively, you'll have that thumper, but you got to obviously figure this out. But a lot of them, Bradford and Cotillo seem like this could not happen. So I will not go to that point, because this is what Boris does. He has to create this. It's just what he does. But we'll see, if he gets 7 or 8 years from somebody. And it would be weird for the Tigers that people are saying they're the ones that would do that. I don't see that happening one bit, because from the Tigers people I talked to, 2 of them told me that they have a lot of issues with pitching, with a lot, and that would not make sense to bring in him and not fill, they have multiple. But this is going to be a wild ride with this. I do believe in his heart he wants to be here. He just wants the most money. That's just how it is, whether we like it or not. I mentioned this a lot during the trade deadline, and it was reinforced yesterday. It's good to have leverage, and Breslow holds the cards here with the outfielders. And the Red Sox are holding, as quote, a really high bar, as they should. I think that Anthony is not tradable unless you got a ridiculous offer, but I don't think that they were going to do. I don't think so. But there's no doubt they're getting calls about him. But this is a good thing. It comes off sometimes like there's weight on their shoulders. I mean, they could conceivably just say, well, probably not, unless Yoshida got hurt to start the year, but I don't think they're going to do that. But they can hold out a little bit longer. Craig Breslow doesn't feel compelled to trade one of his 4 outfielders, but teams have expressed interest in a listen. I don't agree. I don't believe all of that. I think they are working on something. Going back to the trade deadline, he says, teams have expressed interest in some of our players. I don't think that's surprising. I agree. Other teams recognize where we are, so we'll stay open-minded with those conversations. But again, we're going to hold a really high bar. Yeah. And he said, I think the place to start, there is that absolutely a way to accommodate all of those talented outfielders. I think we showed that last year. I don't agree. I don't believe any of that either. I think it's a good sign when other teams in the league express interest in our guys, right? Because how would they do that? Unless they, Abreu didn't play all the time. I don't see if they keep Duran, Rafael, and Abreu, one of them not playing. I don't think they're going to do that. But I like these answers. But I do like having that leverage with players. I think that's important, to build a foundation. And like many had mentioned, they've got outfield prospects. We know about Garcia, Campbell. I think that they're outfielders. And like I said yesterday, maybe a couple days ago, Campbell might be a guy that teams like more than the guys you have there. Well, that's crazy. Well, no, I mean, organizations are different. I remember in 2005 in Portland, my first year, we had an unbelievable team, by the way. You should go look at the 2005 Portland Sea Dogs. I'll have to, off the top of my head, okay, Jonathan Papelbon was a starter in the minors, but he was always destined to be a reliever. Our first 5 starters that year all made it to the big leagues in that order, I'm pretty sure. I'll have to look this up. It was incredible. Lester, Pauly, Papelbon, Kaysen Gabbard, and Charlie Zink, I think. Zink pitched 1 game. But I remember Anibal Sanchez coming up and a scout telling me I like him better as a starter than Papelbon. And I was like, oh, and at the time you're thinking, wow. And, they were right. Sanchez was a much better starter than Papelbon because Papelbon never started. I always liked the opinions of other coaches. If I was, out, a lot of times in baseball you go out with the other radio guys. Sometimes their coaches come out and you talk about players. And I remember this clearly with Kevin Bowles, who was our manager in Portland. We were playing Altoona. We would only play the other division twice. And a lot of times the coaches would ask me, hey, find out what this guy's like. So I'd ask the radio guy, hey, the player is cool. Is he, good player? Is he a good guy? Oh yeah, he's great. Because that's the stuff they wanted to find out. But I remember in Altoona, our coach is saying, hey, what's up with this Brock Holt guy? Why does, I said, I don't think, at the time he was not a top prospect. The Pirates had all these, I think Neil Walker was there. They had top prospects and they didn't have him as a priority. And I remember talking to their broadcasters and, he's the great guy. He ended up marrying a girl in the front office in Altoona. And I know that when the Sox got him, that our guys in AA wrote him up highly. It's weird how all this works. So that, that's my point with when we do a lot of who we want to get rid of. I think it's a waste of time at times because I'm telling you, there are guys that you don't even know of the teams are all over. And obviously the Brewers were with Quinn Priester. We know that. Let's get to your comments before we head out for the week. At Core 1, period 8 Ministries. If a team wins 2 World Series in a row, you are out of contention of any major star player or draft round like they can go last. Well, yeah, I don't know if anyone would agree to that. I get that. I think they'll probably change rules. I do think with the Dodgers, maybe teams should be capped from Japan. Like, they're probably going to get most of those guys again. But I don't know if you can do that. I mean, again, you're penalizing a team for having a good business. That's what's wrong with sports sometimes. With baseball, the Dodgers, Yankees, and Red Sox have built a pretty good business for many years, and yeah, they get credit. The Dodgers are obviously it's a different situation with what they're spending. I get it, and there probably needs to be something, but it's not like what has happened there is, I think it's a change of the modern player as well. If you're a young kid, especially if you're from Japan and you've got Ohtani there, you're going to want to be with him, right? I mean, that I get. But guys like being out there. So, that's tough. At Sand Drubby, for all those clamoring about not re-signing Bregman for the rest of his career, all I can say is you remember when Beltre played for 1 year and wasn't re-signed. Yeah, I responded to that. I hated that move. Funny story, next year in spring training, I'm there for big league camp. I asked Arnie Baylor, why is Youkilis limping at third base? He's not. That's just how he moves now. I go, what do you mean? Yeah, he can't move. And I'm like, well, why is he playing third? Because they wanted Gonzalez. That was a disaster of a move. Youkilis was limping in spring training. He could, if you would have seen him take ground balls, you would have said, what in the world are they doing here? But they put no priority at that position because they wanted Adrian Gonzalez. They fell in love with him, which, hindsight's 20/20. But I, at the time, did not like that because you weakened a position of priority. And I learned that from coaches. You can't just put anyone at third base. And Youkilis was okay there, but that never worked out. You had a Gold Glove third baseman, and you had Youkilis at first, but they just were so in love with Adrian Gonzalez. And they were so worried that Beltre being on a 1-year deal, that he was just good for that year because of that, and that he would never be good after that. It was a bad read, and it really, at the end of the day, made no sense because you put a lot of resources into first base. Bad character guy, I'm telling you this. I'll let you in on a little something about Adrian Gonzalez. Personally, my interactions with him, fantastic. I had to interview him he went into the Sea Dogs Hall of Fame. He was an unbelievable guy. But within the industry, I never heard good things about him. As a teammate, just never heard good things about him. And that did not end well. So, to your point, grass seems always greener. And that 2000 team, that 11 team was a disaster. Oh, God. That was a disaster. Had Stephen D. Benetendo trade for Arenado, he still has juice left. I don't. So, this is a good example, though, of those who don't think that Bregman's worth the money. Arenado is 35. He'll be 35 in April. Okay? He's older than Bregman. He makes, starting in 2020, all right? He's been making $35 million for a while. So you think Bregman making even $5 more million than the four? Oh, that's crazy. Arenado is making $35 million, and will make $32 this year, and then it goes down. But is that a better option? Defensively, he's still good. He's older. His production has gone way down. He's not the same player. I mean, that's someone on the downhill slide that will cost you around the same money. Unless you're looking in, and there's no way the Cardinals are going to, we'll pay all the money. No. The Rockies are still paying some of that money. But yeah, I wouldn't, that to me is not a better option. But we'll see. I think they might have been linked a little bit last year. I don't know if that was a lot of smoke. All right, that will do it for the week. Thanks for watching Red Sox Now, presented by FanArch here on YouTube. @TheRadioMike is my handle on social media. Go to X. You can find me there. I know a lot of you found me on Instagram as well, which is cool. And we'll do it all again Monday. Have a great weekend. Pat's had a great game on Thursday, so enjoy it. It's cold here in the Northeast. Get your comments in. I'll get to them all weekend. And as always, go Sox.